Thank you. Well, how fun is this? It is so good to see all of you. I think this event tends to bring out the best in all of us. 2017, we have filled the room again, 1,500 people here to see the State of the City address. And right up front, as you know, this is an annual Chamber of Commerce event, and that gives me a chance to personally thank them for all that they do for us. They fight for jobs, they fight to diversify our economy, they fight for pro-business legislation to create an environment that's helping to attract and grow new businesses. What I'd like right now is for everyone who's on the Chamber's Board of Directors or on the staff of the Chamber, would you please stand up so we can show our appreciation for all the work that you do? It is quite a group. So thank you, Roy and Pete, and our best wishes to Rhonda Hooper and all those standing. Thank you very much. Over at City Hall, I am fortunate to work with the best city council in the United States. And before I go through them individually, I want to take just a moment to talk about Pete White in Ward 4. Pete has served a couple of stints as the Ward 4 city councilman, a combined 18 years of service. He's the longest serving Ward 4 city councilman in our city's history. And as many of you know, Pete is not running for re-election this spring, but he is here today. Pete, would you stand so we can show our appreciation to your career of public service? Thank you. It is not going to be the same without you, Pete. We'll miss you. Thanks for everything you've done for Oklahoma City. Several other members of the City Council are here today, so I'm going to call their names if they would stand and then just remain standing. First, James Greiner, representing Ward 1. Ed Shadid, Ward 2. Larry McAtee, Ward 3. Again, Pete White, Ward 4. David Greenwell, Ward 5. Meg Salyer in Ward 6. John Pettis, Ward 7. And Mark Stonecipher in Ward 8. Okay, so Steve, please remain standing. Now I want the rest of the people that we work with at City Hall, all the city employees that are here today, would you all please stand? All right? Now, anyone who serves on a city commission or an advisory board or an oversight district, would you please stand? Any trustees of anything involved with the city? All right, how about a community round of applause for all these volunteers and employees who make Oklahoma City what it is today? Also in the audience today is a young man who's making all of us proud. He grew up in Oklahoma, and in 2011, he graduated from high school right here in Oklahoma City at Deer Creek. Was a pretty good baseball player. Last May, just 5 years after he left Oklahoma City, he moved into the starting rotation of the Detroit Tigers and was just named the American League Rookie of the Year. Michael Fulmer is here. Michael, would you stand with your wife, Kelsey, and his parents, JP and Lisa? Great to have you here. Michael is headed off to spring training in about 2 weeks, so I asked him to come here today so we could honor him the same way as we have with Sam Bradford, Blake Griffin, Gerald McCoy, and Wes Welker. Today, January 11, 2017, is Michael Fulmer Day in Oklahoma City. Congratulations, Michael. And down front, over to my right, I want to recognize my family, my wonderful wife, Terry, my 3 boys, and my daughters-in-law, and making their first ever appearance at a State of the City address, my 2 oldest granddaughters, Macy and Lily. Would you 2 stand up? It's a big room. I want everybody to see you. Wave to everybody. Wave. Yeah, they're excited. They got out of school to come to this. And you guys can sit down now. But you can't leave. It wouldn't look good. But it's a wonderful city that you all have created for them and their friends, so thank you for that. You know, our city drew a lot of positive attention in 2016. It continues to attract new jobs and new people. The population growth is also reflecting this trend about how we're continuing to progress. In the 2010 census, we had 580,000 people. We're now approaching 640,000 people. That's an increase of 60,000. And the metro area is about to hit a new milestone of 1.5 million people. And let's look at some lists that kind of reflect this prosperity. The media loves lists. Forbes magazine, we'll start with them. Just last month, they put together a list of the cities with the fastest wage growth, and out of the entire country, we're number 10. Forbes also studied our series of MAPS initiatives, and to their readers all over the world, they said, MAPS is a model public works program. MAPS is about improving the quality of life in Oklahoma City, and Forbes isn't the only publication that's noticed how the quality of life here has gotten better. Business Facilities Magazine ranked the quality of life in cities all over the country, and they placed us number 1. Specifically, yeah, go ahead and applaud. I mean, number 1, that's pretty good. Specifically, they said, by just about any benchmark you can raise in evaluating the quality of life in a location, OKC is a front runner. That's pretty strong. That same publication ranked us highly in categories like the lowest cost of doing business and the best cost of living. There's some others. Let's see, the website Angie's List is telling its customers that Oklahoma City is the best place in the country for 20-somethings. It placed us in its class by ourselves, mentioned our low cost of housing, our easy commutes, and our low taxes. The website Zumper agrees and told its readers that Oklahoma City gets an A+ for a great place for college graduates to start their career. Another website, Wallet Hub, compared 150 cities around the country, named us number 7 for best place to relocate and start a career. We also rank high on entrepreneurship. Different publications mentioning us as the best place to launch a business. They are touting our local universities as great places to learn entrepreneurship. One site mentioned we were a great place for Hispanic entrepreneurs, and still another said we were number 1 in the entire country for women entrepreneurs. Yeah, go ahead and applaud. And just to prove it's not all business, CNN did a national poll and determined that we were number 1 in the country for having the best hamburgers. How cool is that? No argument here. I would hesitate to make a list of the best places, but CNN did not hesitate. They specifically mentioned Tucker's Onion Burgers, The Garage, and Ludovine. This city is lit. All right, 20 years ago, we weren't exactly at the top of many vacation lists. As you know, we've come a long way. USA Today polled travelers, asked them how satisfied they were as they traveled to different cities. We got extremely high reviews. Of all the cities in the southwest part of the country, we were ranked number 4. But I think the national honor that stands out to me more than any other for 2016 was not for hamburgers or tourism or any of the business-related categories. It was for public transit. Systems are categorized by ridership, and last summer we learned that Embark, our public bus system, was named as North America's outstanding public transportation system by the American Public Transportation Authority. It talked about how far we have come. Since 2014, we have rebranded our transit system. We've aligned the routes to better improve bus frequency. We've expanded our service hours until midnight on all of the popular routes. We've updated approximately 2,000 bus stops with highly visible signage. We've doubled the numbers of bus shelters. We have added real-time arrival information. We have an online journey planning. We have Wi-Fi on every bus, and we have other interactive mobile tools. And I'm highlighting all of this partially because if you don't use our bus system, you have no way of knowing how much better it's gotten. So let this be your personal invitation for 2017. Try it out. And as you know, in about 2 years, Embark is going to be charged with integrating our bus system with the new MAPS 3 Streetcar, which will provide a much more seamless operation for moving people around Oklahoma City. Well, since we're talking about the streetcar, let's go ahead and run down all of the MAPS 3 projects, give you an update on the progress. There's a lot going on with the streetcar. As you know, the Santa Fe train station on E.K. Gaylord is being completely remodeled and upgraded. The first tracks for the streetcar are going to be placed along Sheridan in Bricktown. And you can officially join me because we're going to have a groundbreaking event on February 7th. It'll be right in front of the Melting Pot restaurant. Meanwhile, the streetcars themselves are under construction. Now, a couple of months ago, as part of my role with the United States Conference of Mayors, I was in Pittsburgh, and Terry and I spent a half day going over to Brookville, Pennsylvania, to see the streetcar manufacturing facility. And sure enough, our streetcars were there. They're being constructed. This company takes raw steel and turns it into a streetcar. And I must say, not every woman looks great in safety goggles. But Terry pulls off that fashion challenge marvelously. Me, not so much. But it was wonderful to see those streetcars out there in this very infancy of their stage. Out at the fairgrounds, the construction of the Bennett Event Center is complete. The Fair Board has named the building after civic leader Clay Bennett, who was on hand for the dedication. And of course, Clay's Thunder will be playing tonight across the street against Memphis. This building at the fairgrounds, though, is spectacular, and in just 9 days, if you weren't there for the ribbon cutting, you'll need to go out for the 2017 Home and Garden Show. It always attracts a big crowd, but I have a feeling this year it's going to attract a really big crowd because the people that have invested in MAPS 3, the people that have built this facility want to go out and see this building and touch it and experience it for the first time, so I hope you're one of them and you'll go out and join them. As you'll remember, last spring we completed the MAPS 3 whitewater course. The United States Olympic Committee spent time on the Oklahoma River and has given our course rave reviews. We held the Olympic trials for kayak. And please remember that this course was not built just for Olympians. This course is built for you. So please plan on heading out to the rapids when it opens for 2017. There is nothing like it. FOMO. If you don't come out and see it, you're going to regret it. So come out and see it this year and make sure that the visitors know about it. When they come to your house, take them out to the whitewater facility and let them see it. Our first of 4 MAPS 3 wellness centers is nearing completion. The ribbon cutting is going to be next month. First center at 117th and North Rockwell. It'll be operated by a nonprofit organization called Healthy Living. As a reminder now, the idea of the wellness centers is to get ahead of the demographics that show how the baby boom generation is aging, and we're hoping to encourage a long, healthy life for our over 50 crowd. It's part of a larger plan to build a healthier community for people that live in Oklahoma City, and the first of 4 centers opens next month. Which brings us to Sidewalks and Trails. As you know, our first MAPS 3 trail, the 7-mile West River Trail, is open on the far west side of the city. I guess it's the most scenic trail in our system right now, and ridership is exceeding all of our expectations. The 8-mile Will Rogers Trail is under construction. You see us here at the groundbreaking, and it's going to connect the river with Lake Hefner. And of course, the sidewalks are under construction all over the city. Neighborhoods are being transformed into healthier, more walkable places to live. No question, we still have a long way to go in the sidewalk department, but I think we've all seen individually examples of how sidewalks are changing neighborhoods. They're attracting people to get outside and walk instead of taking their car, and that's a step in the right direction. The largest of the MAPS 3 projects, of course, will be the new convention center. So if you feel a little bit cramped in here today, help is on the way. It'll be located just a couple of blocks south, very near the Chesapeake Energy Arena. And we anticipate that the construction on the convention center is going to start later this year, and we expect that it's going to attract a significant investment from a major hotelier from outside of Oklahoma City. So we are currently in negotiations with Omni for that piece of the puzzle. And again, I anticipate a groundbreaking for the convention center later here in 2017. That leads us to the new MAPS 3 park downtown. Plans are pretty much finalized. There's been a lot of work over the past couple of years to get all the utility lines in order and clear out the space. So we're going to break ground on phase 1 and phase 2 of the park later this year. And in anticipation of that, over the past several months, we've been working on a process to invite the entire community to help us come up with a name for the new park. And so you're going to be hearing details on that very soon. Well, the November elections are behind us. I thought if anything got a round of applause, that would get us a round of applause. And you know, I think one of the reasons they got so much attention is because they were so negative. And it kind of disclosed and exposed a lot of anger and frustration, because I think those are two words that a lot of people would describe about people's attitudes about politics and about the world, about the ever-changing technologies that affect our world. Change is hard, and change is taking place seemingly everywhere. And one aspect of that changing world affects us and education. Now, when I and many of you were growing up, it was implied that as you got older, you studied, you went to school, and by the time you got in your 20s, you were winding up your education and you went to work. School and education were supposed to be something in your past. Your future was about finding a place in the workforce. Well, all that seems different now, and it's because of technology and change. I remember in the 1960s, my family had one telephone, and it sat on a desk in the middle of the house. And above the phone, we had a chalkboard. And that's how we left messages. So if someone called and the person they wanted to talk to wasn't there, you picked up the chalk and you wrote on the chalkboard the message for the person, and you came in the house and you looked, and that's kind of the system for getting in touch with somebody. And then the technology at our house improved. Our parents bought an extension phone, put it in their bedroom, and installed it on the wall. Now, just having a second phone in the house seemed like a really big deal. But putting the phone on the wall, that was a giant step forward in technology. And when I had a friend over to the house, I would take them into the bedroom to show them the extension phone on the wall. Well, time passed. 30 years after that, my father passed away. A couple of years ago, my mother passed away. And when I went in that bedroom for the last time, I picked the receiver up off the wall, and the dial tone was still working. 50 years later, that phone was still working. Now, I want to ask you all, how many of you are planning on keeping your telephone for 50 years? You buy a telephone today, and within 50 days, there's something on the market that makes yours feel outdated. And by the time you've had your phone 2 or 3 years, you're thinking to yourself, I gotta get a new phone. And of course, it's not just phones. We're told advances in robotics and automation are going to replace a lot of the activities in our existing world and a lot of our existing jobs. I was listening to a speaker a couple of weeks ago who said, in the world today, there are 350 million people making clothes. Now, most of them, of course, live somewhere in Asia, so we don't think about them much. They're cutting cloth, they're sewing seams, they're putting on a button. 350 million people making their living making clothes. But technology is marching forward. And in 5 to 10 years, we're told that almost all of those jobs will be automated. And potentially 350 million people are going to be out of work. Now, things change, people can be retrained, they can of course be rehired to do new things, but retraining 350 million people in 5 to 10 years is not really a level of change that we can assume is going to turn out well. Now, that's an extreme example. Most of those jobs are in far-off, distant places, and it doesn't seem like they have a lot in common with us. And here in Oklahoma City, we have low unemployment. It's like 4%. But advancing technology is affecting every industry. It's affecting every job. It's affecting yours. It's affecting mine. So back to my original premise about finishing your education while you're in your 20s. Those days are long gone. For an adult today, continuing your education is not just a fun concept, it's a necessity. All of this change that we're experiencing is probably playing a role in the collective frustration about the world around us. It's probably playing a role in this collective anger that's playing out in the voting booths. But we have to change the way that we view and consider education. A community can't just concentrate on K through 12 anymore. Learning is going to be a lifelong necessity. Adults are going to have to figure out how they keep up with the ever-changing world if they hope to stay employed. Yes, education is a part of your history, but it also has to be part of your future. And as a community, our workforce has to keep investing in itself. Employers have to keep investing in training and educating their employees. And our kids are going to have to keep learning throughout the summer. And I don't want all this to sound depressing, because actually when you compare us to other communities, we're pretty well equipped to deal with this change. Because even though we know as a state we don't fund education as well as we would like, when you look at some individual aspects, the story's a little different. Career tech is actually one of the aspects of education that we do fund pretty well. The problem is we underutilize it. Our library systems are funded pretty well. The problem is we underutilize them. So let me get to my final point on this topic. If we're going to compete with the rest of the world going forward, we've got to understand that education is not just for kids. We have to commit to the educational concept of lifelong learning. Is preschool important? Absolutely. Is K through 12 important? More than ever. Is higher ed important? You better believe it. But all of that is not going to be enough to maintain our position in the world's global economy. We have to commit to living lives that never stop learning. I want to change subjects again and speak about our city budget, because one of the advances in technology is changing the way people shop. People are buying more and more things on the internet. And depending on what they buy and who they buy from, they may or may not be paying sales tax. Now, technically, these sales taxes are still due, and people are supposed to voluntarily submit their internet sales tax on their state income tax form, but that process is probably not getting the level of compliance that we would hope for, and so the result is we're seeing our sales tax slip away. And it's especially frustrating for us at City Hall, because we know more and more people are moving to the city. We know the private sector is creating more and more jobs, but the sales tax is not rising at the same rate. And other cities in the metro are seeing the same thing. And alarmingly, we use sales tax to fund a lot of different services, and some of them are pretty important. Most of it goes to employ police officers and firefighters. It's not just us that's struggling to pay for public safety, it's all municipalities all over the state and many other places around the country. We could use some help at the state level in the way that cities are financed. We could use some help from Washington, which could fix the loophole in the internet sales tax equation. But we've been waiting on that for like 12 years, and at some point you have to realize help may not be on the way. So I tell you that it's all a work in process. Right now, I think it's important for me to communicate to you we need to advance this conversation. The way we're funding municipal government in Oklahoma is no longer a working, viable model. And keep in mind, most of that money goes to public safety. And I want to draw attention to a lot of aspects of public safety that I think have been very helpful. It should be noted, we're not short on creativity and sensitivity, and we're not afraid to look at new ways to combat old problems. In fact, the police methods we're using to combat domestic violence are becoming a national model. The Family Justice Center that is opening up in the next few weeks is certainly going to help in this equation. When a woman with children is facing a potentially violent situation in a domestic abuse problem, it's not enough just to advise her to get out of the home. She may not feel like she has any place to go. She may not feel like she has any option. And with Kim Garrett's leadership in helping to create the Family Justice Center and the work that Jan Peary is doing with the YWCA, these women have options. And I'm confident that lives are going to be saved because of these facilities. Meanwhile, the Homeless Alliance and its individual agencies are doing a lot to deal with our most vulnerable citizens. The Alliance deals with so many different people in so many different situations that it's tough to categorize. So let me just put in a pitch for you to continue to help them with your charitable dollars. They have a tough job. Their success in dealing with veterans who are experiencing homelessness is something that you should be very proud of. There's no one cure for homelessness in America, but you should be proud that we are moving in the right direction. Let me give you some real-life examples. We have a picture here of Amanda. She is a mother of 3 who came to our shelters needing help. They were homeless. They are now housed, and Amanda, by the way, just completed her first semester of college. There is Mark, a teenager who had no place to go, showed up in our system, homeless. He's now graduated from high school, has some support network built up, and he's currently in the workforce as an intern. And finally, there is David. He's a veteran. He was homeless for 7 years. He's now making his own way. He is selling the Curbside Chronicle, and he is ready to transition into a more traditional type of employment. He is currently applying for jobs. 3 of many success stories. I want to pause for a moment now and recognize another person. For 36 years, Rodney Bivens has guided the efforts of the Oklahoma Regional Food Bank. He actually founded the food bank back in 1980, and he had a simple message: fighting hunger, feeding hope. Last year alone, the Oklahoma Regional Food Bank distributed 50 million pounds of food. And under his leadership, the Oklahoma Regional Food Bank is a model for food banks around the country. Rodney has just retired after 36 years. Rodney, would you stand up and so we can show our appreciation? Thank you for making such a real difference in our community. Thank you. Right. We have a lot of success stories in helping people who need some help. The problem is, the need is not going away. The social and the medical issues that played a role in creating these problems are still with us. Some of them are growing. Mental illness is not being adequately addressed. Healthcare is a nightmare. Now, locally we've done a lot, more than just about any other community our size. but we can't stop now. Last year, I spent a lot of time at this event highlighting the reforms in our criminal justice system, and a lot has happened. The passage of state questions 780 and 781 are a big step forward for those of us who want to see some real change in our state system. We all know about the rising cost of incarceration and the social effects of putting more and more people in prison, but state questions 780 and 781 should help us incarcerate fewer people, and just as importantly, put those expected savings into programs that can deal with addiction. We're also looking into changes in our local laws and procedure to provide a more thoughtful and efficient criminal justice system. This is going to require unprecedented cooperation between the state, the city, and the county. But this is all doable. And it's one of those rare hot-button issues that has bipartisan support. So stay tuned. This chamber is very involved in the process, and our next step is to turn recommendations into action. I want to spend a couple of minutes discussing the arts in our community. The arts affect all of us. We saw this year the power of the arts in creating tourism. For instance, the Matisse exhibit at the Oklahoma City Museum of Art attracted 62,000 visitors. They came from all 50 states and 12 foreign countries. And as you would guess, people that are traveling to see Matisse are probably going to spend other money in the greater economy. A great boost to our summertime travel. Another great story about the arts is lyric theater. Now, when the people that loved this theater so much decided a few years ago to reinvest and save it, it created an anchor development on 16th Street for the Plaza District. Well, the Plaza District is now one of the hottest development opportunities in the city. In fact, right now on my sort of extended to-do list is to help figure out the parking issue in the Plaza District because so many people want to go there. Safe to say 10 years ago, we didn't have this problem. It wasn't hard to find a parking spot in the Plaza District. So in these two examples, you have the arts serving an important role in our greater economy. The Matisse exhibit, giving us a tourism boost, the lyric theater as a development catalyst for an entire neighborhood. But these two examples are also symbolic of another issue with the arts, and that is that we have too few people funding them. The Matisse exhibit was largely a tribute to Edith Kinney Gaylord and the Inasmuch Foundation. It was a way to celebrate the 100th anniversary of her birth. The Lyric Theater was resurrected a few years ago by the traditional arts funders in our city. It's a relatively small number of people. This city is going places, and the arts are going to help us get there, but we can't rely on the same 100 people to fund all of these different artistic endeavors. We need 100,000 people helping to fund the arts. We need a wider base. We've made great strides in diversifying our economy, but we have to do more to diversify our philanthropic giving. And that means more people getting involved in allied arts and the individual artistic groups that are putting art back into the lives of our children and performing at all of our wonderful venues. And if you're wondering, how can I start? Well, our Allied Arts has set a fundraising goal this year of $3 million. Let's all see that they get there. Now, we're running out of time. Lily and Macy are just dying to get back to school. But before we go, I want to touch on a few more things. First of all, thank you to everyone who's trying to live a healthier life. We're trying to rebuild the built environment to be a healthier community, but it also never hurts to ask you to eat less, exercise more. In animal welfare, our spay and neutering programs and our animal adoption programs are making a big difference. In fact, I think my favorite day in 2016 was the day we ran out of adoptable animals at the animal shelter. Now, alas, a couple of hours later, some new animals showed up. They were looking for a home. So we've got to continue these efforts. But we have a great public-private partnership with the Humane Society, and no city has come as far in this area as Oklahoma City, and I'm very proud of it. All right, let's sum it up now. At 2017, and just about by any way that you measure cities, we're heading in the right direction. The population is still increasing. Jobs are still being created. Unemployment is low. We probably have the lowest cost of living of any big city in the country. There is some traffic congestion, but it's less than everywhere else. We still struggle in some social categories, but we're improving in most of them. We're a community that cares deeply that everyone, regardless of their zip code or the color of their skin, deserves the same chance as everyone else. At City Hall, we have police officers and firefighters that are working daily to keep us safe, and they're doing an amazing job. Our streets need more attention. We hear you. And later this year, we're going to have some funding opportunities to do a better job in that area. Before we go, one more special guest I want to introduce. I'd like to welcome Marshal Hanna to the meeting. Marshal, would you stand? Marshal is a World War II veteran, flew 22 missions over Germany, shot down on his 23rd mission, spent 10 months in a German POW camp. He lives in Capitol Hill. He's 95 years old. Marshal, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you lived in Ward 4, I'd ask you to run for city council. But seriously, our biggest asset is the people that live here. We take care of each other, and there's nothing phony about it. Despite all of the cynicism in the world, we really do care about each other. So I guess as some final guidelines, if there are young people in your life, read to them. If there are older people in your neighborhood, check on them occasionally, see how they're doing. Support your local merchants. Volunteer at your kid's school or your church or a nonprofit that's helping the city to move forward. Thank you for all you do to make this city such a wonderful place, and thank you for coming today.